This episode of Fuel for the Soul is powered by ASICS. Head over to asics.com and sign up for a one ASICS account. It's completely free, and when you sign up, you will receive 10% off your first purchase. You'll also gain access to exclusive colorways on asics.com, free standard shipping, special birthday month discounts, and more.
Hi, this is Thomas with Believe in the Run.
And this is Meghann with Believe in the Run.
And this is Meghann with Featherstone Nutrition.
AKA the Berlin Destroyer, Feathers.
That was good. I feel like you nailed it. It's been a while.
Yeah. He's on. He's on today.
Hey, you know what?
What is it?
I had Speedworks and my brain is clear.
Ooh.
That's it. Workout day. Workout day gets a good Thomas.
It does. I don't know what it does. There's like crap in my brain sockets.
Yeah.
And running kind of like blows the dust out of them.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm good for the day. Like, May gets a good Thomas until around 5, and then I just fizzle out.
But question for you: what did you fuel with after your run?
Kodiak oatmeal. Kodiak cakes oatmeal. Is it Kodiak cakes?
No, it's just Kodiak.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. I don't know.
Kodiak
why
cakes
we
are just the pancakes. Yeah.
Yeah. Why we
Yeah.
throw all the cake on there?
Because I think they were known for that originally, maybe. So
It's
I
peak
agree.
oatmeal. And guess what, people? It's a new sponsor. So if you want to support the show, you know we're sponsored by ASICS. We're sponsored now by Kodiak brands of nutrition, which is Feathers approved. Feathers, tell them why.
you're eating
It's
it right
really good.
now.
I am eating it right now. It's
Yeah, that's
absolutely
rude.
delicious.
That's
well,
rude.
I'm
We're
sorry.
trying to
It's
hear
good.
an ad and you got your mouth full with oatmeal.
We got to prove that it's delicious, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
here's the jam.
Are you
guys
gonna put
know.
it on toast?
Oh, I could probably toast it. Yeah, pile it up on a piece of toast. I mean, toast crunks, here we come. No, but I mean, you guys always hear that how important it is that we make sure we hit our carb and our protein needs. Cue this peak oatmeal, and it's got 20 grams of protein in it, part from whey protein, part from pea protein. And then if you need more protein than 20
Peas and
grams, like
carrots.
I do, I made it with milk. So it got even more protein in it. So phenomenal. It's delightful.
Do you know what Megan does? She throws
do?
a big thing of yogurt on it.
Oh,
Yeah. I add
I dig
yogurt to
that.
mine, and I make it with water, so
Yeah.
get the protein that way.
So yeah, so for my workout today, when I finished, I had a protein powder, then I had the Kodiak cakes, and I
No,
did splash.
Kodiak Peak Oatmeal.
Okay, I keep wanting to call it Kodiak cakes. Kodiak's peak
All right.
oatmeal, but I put milk in with it as well. I like that. I don't know if I was a little kid, my mom used to put the moat of milk around the oatmeal and then brown sugar in the center. You don't need the brown sugar with this because I'd say it's on the sweeter side.
But what's interesting is that there's actually 40% less sugar in this than their other oatmeal brands. Yeah.
No.
Oh, wow. But it
Yeah.
does. It tastes sweet, don't you think?
Yeah, it does. It's good.
Okay, so we've got 3 flavors. We have banana nut, we have the blueberry and cream, and the maple brown sugar. Which one's your favorite?
Maple brown sugar for me.
This
Go
is the
ahead,
only one
fellas.
I've tried yet is maple brown sugar because it reminds me of my childhood because that's what I used to eat when I was a kid. But I have to try the other one still. What about you, T?
I have to say, so the last place I thought I would like would be the banana nut. I don't know. I'm not a banana nut kind of guy, but it wasn't bad.
No, it is really good, and I didn't think I was going to like it either.
Yeah,
It's so good.
And the blueberries and cream, it's actually really nice. Mm-hmm. I actually think it's. I'm surprised. I'm not as big as an oatmeal guy as Meghann. Meghann throughout the summer, and I don't know how you do it in the summer. I'm definitely not an oatmeal person in the summer, but as it starts to cool off and it starts to be sweater weather, maybe I pull out my hoodies.
Sweater weather.
Yeah, that oatmeal, it hits.
Well, my mind went a million places with this. I was like, we can do a lot with this. Like, you could jazz this up and make overnight oats with it for summer if you don't want something hot. Like, I would love the nutrition on this, and I think you can amp up protein, you can amp up carbs. Like, you can play with it to make it, like, whatever you need for your recovery nutrition, which is pretty cool.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you then.
Okay.
I think we need a couple recipes of stuff that we could do with this oatmeal. Because you know what I like is my favorite version of oatmeal? Cookies. And I'm sure that we could create a protein cookie
Here,
with this.
in on this. This will be, oh yeah, easy peasy. Cookies, overnight oats.
that's
I don't know. Something else too. Blender muffins.
All right. So if you guys want to get in on this deliciousness, we have a discount code. You can go to kodiakcakes.com/BIR, and then you get 20% off a bunch of peak oatmeal.
Wow, they just took out the T. It's just BIR.
Yeah.
All right.
I wondered
It's
about
easy.
the same thing.
Leave and run.
It's fine.
Forget the. We don't need the.
That'll work. Hey,
Just a
you
waste
just
of
want the
energy.
discount. You don't care.
I'll
what
also
it is.
put the link in the show notes. So if you are confused, just go there and click that button. Make it easy.
But so far, they haven't missed with a product yet.
Yeah,
So
very good.
We were very happy to have them as a sponsor. And just so you know, when we take on a sponsor, first thing we do is we saw if Feathers would approve it nutrition-wise.
This is true. I've turned a
once
lot
you
down.
Gave a thumbs up on. Yeah, once we got the nutrition. Yeah, this is why you don't hear about ketos, like the ketone drinks on this show. But she vets it from a nutritional standpoint, and then Meg and I obviously taste it, and if it tastes right, and the nutrition's there, that's why we would only, because we want you guys to be able to trust the stuff that we're saying.
Yeah,
And
only
if
the
we-
good stuff.
Yeah, if we're throwing out something that's garbage, we don't want you to think
Not gonna happen.
the rest of their information is garbage too.
Okay, let's talk about what we're all really here for, Meghann, and that is all things Berlin Marathon. I don't even know where to start.
I don't
we gotta
either.
talk about the hydration bottles. We got to talk about how you carb loaded, the actual race, the weather.
I mean,
you start.
Wait, can we start
so
with
many
her?
things.
Her goal was to go sub
250.
250. Well, she did. She also went sub 3. I'm sure that 350 was also a goal,
Yes.
but sub 250, and she ended up where, Megan?
2:49:55, and she clocked a last mile of sub 6 to make it happen.
Okay,
did.
and what was the sound that you made when you found out, when we were watching all the way from the United States? We see Feathers bobbing along, and what did you say?
Well, I was tracking her on the app, and then she showed up on the TV, and so we were like freaking out, and you could see the time clock, but I knew that that time clock was kind of off because you didn't start right when it started. So then I was trying to refresh the app, and I, for whatever reason, couldn't see the final number, and it was like, she's finished, and I was like, but what does it say? And so like, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, she did like 250, like not that 5 seconds matters, but
Right.
you know, I'm like, this was the goal, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden I see 2:49:55, and I just go, you could hear it in the audio of the video we posted.
It was
What did
amazing.
you also said something like, "Oh my God," or what did you say?
I don't know. I was
It
losing my mind.
What was
Super
it was a
cute.
pure moment, and what was exciting about it is, if you don't know, Megan, not Feathers, but Megan, provides Feathers with coaching. So Megan had a horse in this race and was like on pins and needles, waiting to see how you would do.
I mean, we were up at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning to watch this all unfold.
And you
so,
did not disappoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's hear about it.
Oh man, I know that when I saw that video, because it looked like maybe there was a lag in the TV coverage, because you knew that I made my goal before you see me cross the finish line, and it was just
Yeah.
the cutest thing ever. Like, oh, I sat on my bed just rewatching it, and I might have cried a little bit, and I was like, this is the cutest thing ever. Anyway, so Berlin, honestly, like, what an experience. I mean, I didn't really have a whole lot of expectations going there. I'd never been to Germany before. I wasn't sure what to expect. And it was incredible. Like, if anybody's on the fence about going that far for a race, like, it was pretty freaking cool. So I highly recommend it, A. And B, it's also massive. So one of the biggest differences I saw, like, thinking about the day of the actual race, right? We've done Boston, we've done New York City, we've done Chicago. All of those have like waves for all the amount of runners. So as I'm sitting there in one of the press conferences, they said there was 39,912 people registered or something crazy like that. So immediately I look up like, okay, how many ran New York City? Like, how does this compare to a race I've run before? So about that many finished New York when we all ran it last year. So I was like, okay, but then I'm like, wait, there were 3 waves for that. At Berlin, they have the
it
corrals closed until 9:05 when the wheelchairs go. And from 9:05 to 9:15, they're like, hop in, we're going in 10 minutes. So there's literally over 30,000 people like trying to get into these corrals to start. I mean, you guys have seen the videos. It is just wall to wall people. So I was a little bit like, is this going to freak me out that there's this many people? Like, I've never been. And I was like, you know what? Like, it is what it is. Just hop in. Me and the guy that we're starting together literally just hopped the fence because there was no way we would have gotten into our corral and up to the front. And we knew we needed to be in the front so we didn't get like slowed down. But I mean, I've never seen anything like this in my life.
You were in Corral B, and when we were chatting beforehand, we were a little worried because we were like, why aren't you in A? How far back were you from the start?
Corral A was tiny. There was not many people in Corral A. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to say Chicago has a similar, I mean, even though they kind of split it up, it's a mass start. And it's a bunch of people. You've run Chicago.
Oh, it felt so much bigger. Like it was wide. It was four lanes deep, solid head to head. Like it was wild. Yeah. But everybody starts together. The elite men, the elite women, all of us. Everybody but the wheelchair. So it's just like this mass like start. And it was just insane. It was, honestly, we were at the very front of Corral B, and we had a really hard time getting to pace that first mile. Like there was a decent amount of bobbing and weaving. Probably for the first 7 miles, I felt like I had to be really careful because I got behind people and like the pace was slowing way too much. So there was a little bit of weaving. So I'm sure if we would have been in the back, it would have been a nightmare. So, yeah.
Okay, so Meghann had said one time that running Boston, she was held up in the beginning because of the crowd. And she actually thinks it benefited her because it kept her honest the first couple miles. Did you feel like maybe, I mean, bobbing and weaving, though, takes a lot of energy. But did it help to maybe control your jitters and your pace off the bat?
I think so. Yeah, I think it did. Yeah. And I talked to Meg beforehand. Like, I'm usually not somebody who, like, starts out too hot. Like, I'm usually pretty good at, like, keeping a pretty conservative pace at the beginning of a marathon. Shorter distances, different story. But, yeah. No, I think it went pretty well. And there was, like, I guess there's all these people, like, protesting climate control or something over there. So they were talking about how they were going to, like, super glue their hands to the course, and I didn't actually see that.
I would just run right over somebody who did that, by the way. Like, if you want to
like catapult off their back.
Yeah. After I've trained for months to run a race and you decide that you want to protest, it's the wrong form.
But so what they had done was dumped paint. So I was kind of like, I don't want to run through paint. What if it's slippery? So I did kind of do like this dance around a couple gallons of paint at the beginning. I was like, this is crazy.
Let me ask you, I know this isn't about protest, but what's the point of that? Like, are you punishing the runners? Like who are you trying to punish?
Also seems like paint is not good for the environment.
Yeah.
Like,
good point. Very good point. I didn't think about that.
We're going to dump oil to
protest.
We're going to dump oil to protest climate warming or climate change.
That's pretty crazy, for sure.
Okay, wait. I know we're already into the race here, but I just realized we kind of need to backtrack a little bit because I want to know carb loading, how that went, and then also morning, what did we eat beforehand?
Berlin is a carb loader's dream. Let me just tell you. Like, there are carbs everywhere. Like, whatever their subway system is called, you can buy, like, soft pretzels at any stop. And it's, like, legit.
The
it's not
pretzels
like...
look amazing.
Oh, my gosh. Insanity. And then the fresh bread everywhere. I went and found an Aldi, clearly. And they literally had, like, the most beautiful fresh bread that you could buy for, like, 40 cents. Like, a huge loaf of bread for, like, 40 cents. Like, it was very inexpensive to carb load there. I think I spent, like, $9 at Aldi and was, like, set for 3 days.
Wow.
And... you know, like it everywhere had just the best bread. I had this like burrata pizza that I got a bunch of carbs out of. And then like another day I had a burrata like sourdough sandwich. I mean, it was so easy to carb load there. And there was just so many wonderful options.
So you're saying the Germans love their bread?
Oh, yeah. I mean, unbelievably. Yeah. And so I had a lot of I think I had 4 soft pretzels the day before the race. So that was the majority of my carb load that day. And then,
those
of course,
looked
grams.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The pretzels really, like, that was, I was like,
Yeah, and then, of course, I had grams. So I took 2 whole boxes of grams, and I came home with 2 little sleeves. So I had, like, 4 sleeves of grams over the amount of time. And, of course, that's what I ate the morning of the race. I woke up and had 4 grams in my hotel room with a cup of coffee, which they have great coffee there, too. And then I took some grams with me.
What did you have?
Yeah, it was like this little espresso machine, like these little which I was like, I don't know how many of these I need to drink for my caffeine. So I just like drank 2 and yeah. And then the race starts a little bit later. So it starts at 9:15. So I knew I needed to probably eat twice beforehand. So I took some grams with me to the race and ate some there. And I saw some people eating like having their whole box of graham crackers at the start line, sitting there eating them. And I, of course, took pictures, and then someone tagged someone that found them. It was great.
Do you feel like you are the originator?
She is,
Yeah,
because
I think
that
so.
person that you tagged said that they were a fan, right?
Yeah.
You were the reason they had a box of graham
Yeah.
crackers.
Yeah. I was like,
That's
you should have come and said
international
hi.
love.
I was literally sitting across from her, and I was like, you should have come and say hi. She was like, I was nervous. So let this be known. If you see me, please come say hi, especially if you're eating graham crackers.
If you're, you got to take a picture with feathers with a box of graham crackers. I mean, I don't know anybody who's done more for graham crackers than you.
You know, it's just pure love. I don't get a cent from them. I actually pay for my graham crackers.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. Fuel for
I
the
know.
Soul should be sponsored by Grams, because between us, that we probably go through so many boxes, it's not even
unbelievable.
real.
I'm a nibbler. I had one before my workout today, but like I'm not as like addicted to it as this Meghann here.
Yeah.
Okay. One other thing that happened race morning, Meghann, is you got to drop bottles. So talk to
Yes.
us about that.
Okay, so Berlin Marathon is the only marathon I'm aware of that has something called personal hydration bottles. So anyone running the race can drop bottles. Anyone. Yes. There's like
How did they do that for
anyone.
that many people? You said that there was like
Over
40,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're telling me that it's a smart decision to leave a bottle out. And
I think most people probably aren't, right?
Right. So that was my thought. So I went back and forth in the week before because I was like, I need to take bottles if I'm going to do this, you know? So I was trying to decide, am I going to do it? And one day I'd be like, no, like Thomas is saying, there's going to be too many. I'm never going to find it. And then right before I left, literally the night before, I went and got some bottles because I was like, this is a phenomenal experiment, right? Like we got to talk about this. If anybody's going to try this and see if it works, it should totally be me. So my thought was there could be a million here. I need to go buy the most obnoxious bottles and do something to make them stand out. So in my mind, I was going to get bottles and put like really bright duct tape on it and maybe some pipe cleaners so that I could grab it so it would stand a little bit taller. Well, I get to the grocery store and none of those things existed. And I was like, I'm not going to another store. So I found these bottles that were on sale for $1.97 that you pulled on and they like expanded and they were like bright pink and bright purple, like tie-dye. And I was like, perfect. And then I was like, something needs to stick out. And so there was this bright pink ruler sitting right next to them. And I'm like, well, I'm going to rubber band a ruler to it because you have to write your name, your bib number, and what kilometer you wanted it at. So I was like, I'll just write that up the ruler, thinking that I'm a idiot and like I'm going to show up with these bottles and they're going to stand out like a, sore thumb. I get there. Mine were tame. There was feathers attached to things, like really tall, like peacock feathers, which clearly I should have done that. There was like people who had twisted foil like 2 feet long and attached it to their bottle. It was absolutely insane. So when I drop them off, I'm just laughing at this point because I'm like, there's no way I'm ever going to find these. It's literally a semi truck that has like milk crates of water bottles lined up in it. But to be honest, it wasn't as many as I thought it was going to be. Like it was a lot of bottles, but for as many people that ran, I was like, it's not that crazy. So I started with a handheld and I knew I would finish it by around the half. So I chose to put it at the 25 and the 30K, thinking hopefully I can find one of them, right? Like obviously I don't need 2 bottles 5K apart, but I was like, maybe I'll miss one, maybe I'll grab the other one. So that was kind of my logic there. Plus it was like 54 degrees at the start and it was going to get up into the upper 60s by the time we were done, which for me, way too hot. So I was like, you actually probably do need one of these bottles in the second half of the race. So while I wasn't banking on it, I was very much hoping that I would find them. So fast forward, I ended up finishing my bottle by like 11 miles. So I held on to it, hoping I would find it at 25K and could just dump it. So then I could carry, my own bottle instead of this goofy bottle with a ruler hooked to it. But the 25K mark rolled up and I was running with Frank from ASICS and I told him what it looked like too. So he was kind of keeping an eye out for it and I'm looking and I was like, I'm not going to stop, right? I maybe slowed down a couple seconds, but I was like, I'm not going to like actually stop and look for it. So I was like, well, we didn't get it there. So at that point I threw my handheld because I was like, I'm done holding this, thinking I'm just not going to find one. I need to start drinking water. So the next aid station that came up, I drank some water. And then, next thing we know, it's the 30K. And at this point, I'm alone. I'm not running with any of the people I started with. And I found it. And I was so excited. So I ripped the ruler off of it so it wasn't like hitting me in the face. And I started drinking it. And it was like, you know, when you get so dehydrated during a race and you get water and you're just like, I need it all. And you're like chugging it. So I like stopped and I was like, if you chug this all, like this is not going to be good. So I drank probably half of it. And by this point, Frank's back up next to me. And I'm like, do you want some? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, I'm going to throw it. I'm not going to drink the rest of it. And he was like, yeah, I want it. And he's like, he chugged the rest of it. So between the two of us, we, you know, I think it was super helpful to have, you know, the extra fluid and electrolytes there. So all of this ramble to say, I think it's worth trying. Like, I totally think it's worth trying.
Here's the question. So the first bottle you didn't find, and you tossed your bottle to the side.
Yeah.
You were allowed how many bottles total? Just the 2?
No, there was like 8 or 10 options of where you could drop bottles. So you could do all of them if you wanted.
You could have had like missed stops and then just found the next one or whatever. Okay. Secondly, were you mentally prepared? Like, if this bottle thing doesn't work out, I'm just going with the on-course hydration. What was on course for you if you weren't drinking water?
So that was the problem. There are no electrolytes on course at the Berlin Marathon. None. So I'm glad that they allow personal hydration. There's water. There's Maurten. I think it's the 160, which doesn't have sodium in it. And then there's hot sweetened tea. So those are your 3 drinks that you can get. So there is 0 electrolytes.
I've never heard anybody train with hot sweet tea.
Yeah. Well, we're not from Europe, I guess. Maybe they do over there. I don't know.
Do you stop and get like lady fingers or something with it? No?
I think that was the Paris marathon that had the cake.
I've never heard of a marathon, or I guess I just didn't realize the Berlin Marathon didn't have electrolytes of any kind. Like, there's no other major that does that.
The Maurten's probably, as a sponsor, they want to be the hydration solution for people. So I do think that, I mean, it's a great alternative to be able to, like, instead of having gels or something like that, you could be taking the nutrition from the Maurten on the way, but it would kind of, you would have, like, I don't think a lot of people understand that sodium is key to not getting those cramps at the end.
So I want to be honest with you. I saw more people hurling at the finish line than I've ever seen in my entire life. You know that, like, sand they throw over barf, like when a kid barfs at school, they had that.
I think it's like sawdust.
The entire finish line was covered in that. Like, obviously everyone was just, and I have to throw out there that, like, nausea and inability to absorb your nutrition is lack of electrolytes for a lot of people. So I have to wonder, like, literally, I've never, and it was warm, don't get me wrong. It was 10 degrees warmer than most of us want a marathon to be, but it wasn't crazy, right? So the fact that many people were woozy at the end, tons of people cramping, throwing up, like, it, of course, my mind has to twirl to, like, did these people just not get enough electrolytes? And it happened to be a slightly warmer day, you know, while they were out there.
I mean, it doesn't seem too far-fetched. Did you see the amount of snot coming out of Eliud Kipchoge's nose during the race?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God, it made the race really hard to watch.
Oh my God, was he sick?
There was Maurten streaming out of his nose. Like, the entire race.
Well, I saw him afterwards, and he didn't seem sick.
Well, they probably...
Not sure what was happening there.
Yeah, we're not sure what was going on there. But there was 2 distinct streams flying out of his nose for the last at least half of the marathon.
Yeah.
And
whole time.
Meg was like, why didn't he wipe his face? He's got to be able to feel it. I did see him, like, licking his lips, like, to check what was going on. And I'm sure he was like, okay. So maybe there's a new way to get continuous Maurten that he's figured out, like a 360 loop.
We have absorption in our nose, apparently, or he does. He does.
I mean, look up any photos from the race.
Yeah, and zoom into his face.
I'll have to. Yeah. That's wild. Well, he won, so whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Meghann was having trouble with it when we were watching the feed.
I could see that. I could totally see that. Yeah.
On the flip side, the woman wasn't even breathing hard.
Yeah, she was having an easy day out there. Okay, let's go back kind of to the start line where you eventually get out of the crowds and stuff. Did you start with a Maurten?
Yes. Yeah. So I took a caffeinated Maurten at the start, or 10 minutes before, like I always do. And then I decided, so this is one thing that I've talked to a few people about recently. Like, we probably want to take our gels when our perceived exertion is a little lower. So, like, I typically take them every 30 minutes, but it was like 22 minutes in and, like, it felt easy. And I'm like, take your gel now. you know, because when we take a gel, it's going to bump our heart rate up a little bit, you know. So I kind of took that free flowing vibe while I was out there to like take it maybe a little bit earlier. And when I was feeling really good. So I took them at like 22 and 50 instead of 30 and 60. So then the rest of the race, I just kind of started taking them a little bit early. And by the time I got at mile 17, they were handing out Maurten gels. So that was the only gel like depot on the course. Like we know Boston had 3 Maurten stations and there was literally just this one. And I carried all my own gels, but I was like, I think I'm going to take an extra. Like game time decision. I was like, I've been taking these early. I think I can fit another one in. So I grabbed an extra one just in case, right? So I ended up taking 7 gels and I usually take 6.
Wow.
And then I took a serving and a half of Scratch. So of course I had to do the math afterwards. So it ended up that I took like 74 grams of carbs an hour, whereas past marathons I've only taken like 60. And I really think it really, really helped, both mentally and physically. So I think we think of hitting the wall physically where we can't continue to hold paces. But for me, I also really feel it mentally. Like when I start to give up a little bit, or I feel like do I really have to keep doing this? Can I keep doing this? And your mental thought kind of gets a little negative. That's when I would take my gel and I'd feel better in like 10 minutes, right? Because carbs fuel our brain too.
This is a thing. Actually, on our long run this weekend, I was running with Robbie, and you came up because you say it takes 10 minutes for you to get the benefits of a gel, where both of us feel like the minute we take it, there's like a rush, and it's not like I was like, well, maybe it's a psychological rush, but it can't be, because we just feel more energized and we are running. What's happening?
Yeah, no, there's something to that too. So we have receptors for carbohydrates in our mouth. So as soon as our mouth, it's not the sweet, right? Like if it's an artificial sweetener, it's not that. It's literally sugar. So when we have sugar in our mouth, those receptors tell our brain like, yo, sugar's coming. So that's what you're feeling. You're feeling that rush of your body recognizing that it's about to get sugar. And then in, 10 to 12 minutes is when your body actually has it. So you and Robbie must just notice. I don't notice that rush when I first take it. It's not until it hits my bloodstream that I notice it, but you obviously do. So that's, you're feeling both.
Party.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Right? So we got to get to the rave piece of Berlin too. We'll save that for the end.
Well, I want to know your fueling system that got you to that point.
Right? Woof. Woof. So yeah, that's exactly what you guys were feeling. So that was one thing. And granted, like if we haven't practiced taking more fuel, obviously we don't want to do that on race day for the first time. But like I was very confident that this was fine for me.
Do you also think the Maurten makes a difference? Like would any gel help, or is that whole buffer your intestines thing?
So the hydrogel technology of a Maurten is in theory going to allow you to take more carbs per hour than perhaps other types of fuel. Yeah. It doesn't mean you couldn't with other fuel, but there's a little more of a safeguard there with the hydrogel. Yeah.
And you practiced obviously with Maurten's all throughout training, but not taking in this much, but you weren't concerned about taking in a bit more on race day.
No, and because my stomach felt wonderful. Like I had zero, like you guys know Boston, my stomach was a mess. Like I had zero stomach issues the whole time. So I was like, if you can get more in right now, and since I had started a little early from the get-go, it's not like I was piling too much on at once. It was just I needed another one towards the end. And it worked great. Like I think from now on I'll probably aim for a little more than I thought I needed. But it's just kind of good to play around with it.
7 for your pace. Like I could understand 7 for somebody who's out there a little bit longer. But 7 for your pace, finishing sub 250. That seems like a lot of gels.
Yeah. It is. It didn't feel like a lot while you're out there, though. Like it kind of helps you break it up, like what you're doing.
When did you take the last one?
That's what I was trying to remember. I think I took it at like 2:15 was my last one I had, and then I took that extra one. I think it was like 2:30. It was pretty soon after because I was oof, man, I'm tired. Like I need a little extra love here. And in the back of my mind, when I picked up that extra one at mile 17, I was thinking like, I think we're gonna try to get an extra. Like I felt good, but I was like, I think I'm gonna try to get an extra one in. But yeah, I'm a huge proponent of pushing the limits just a little bit with that because I do think. And I guess a lot of this goes back to I was at peak performance out there, right? Like I was literally pushing as hard as I could without blowing up the whole time I was out there. And we know we torch more carbohydrates when we're really trying to PR a marathon to the top of our fitness level, whatever pace that is. So I was like, well, let's just try a little more.
So from you've run New York, Chicago, Berlin. Am I missing any other majors?
Boston.
Yeah. Okay. So 4 out of the 6. How does the Berlin course compare to the other 4 that you've run?
I would have to agree with the notion out there that it's the fastest. Like, I do think that there's a lot of turns. So if you look at my Strava, I ran 26.7 miles. So
yeah, that hurt my heart a little bit.
I think a little bit of it was GPS, though. I think I need a new watch. Anyways, that's for
Kipchoge
another
has a special
day.
edition now.
I know, right? I need that.
You know, I got the same one.
I love it.
So what makes it a fast course? Like, why do you feel like it's a faster
It's
course?
just very flat. It's even flatter than Chicago, you know? So, and
that seems
and
crazy.
the other thing about it is the second half is very shaded. So when the sun came out, you'd have like a 200-meter stretch of sun, but then you'd have a huge break in the shade. And because of the way the buildings are, no matter the wind, I don't think the wind will ever affect that course, truthfully. And the race director that like made the course came on this bus tour with us and was basically telling us that same thing. He's like, wind is just never going to be an issue out here, which makes sense because have you ever heard of like, oh, Berlin was windy today? Like we've never heard that, you know? So I think that's a piece of it. I think that it's flat. The other thing is every road looks the same. It's like mom and pop businesses on the first floor and then 3 stories above it. Like literally the entire way. So it's really easy to just zone out and go and not really know where you are. And like, it's just, I don't know. Like it was just kind of easy to just kind of lose yourself in it and just kind of focus on running.
I also was shocked at the caliber of athletes out there because we were watching the live stream and the finish line was packed with people from 2:30 on. Yeah. Like, so were you running with people the entire time?
Entire time. I made friends with these 2 guys from Nebraska that were trying to go, I think, like 2:47. And obviously, I mean, I think they beat me by like 4 seconds, you know, but there was people that we were kind of jockeying with the whole time. So I was always, there was a couple women, but it was mostly men, you know, that I was running around.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy crowded, really fast. When I finished, my mom sent me a screenshot and she was like, you finished 106th overall. I was like, Mom, of the females, like not overall.
Still, that's insane.
Yeah.
Out of 20,000 women.
I was kind of bummed because I finished in the top 100 for Boston, and then I was like, "Wait, Meghann, this was a much bigger race. Like, you can't be bummed about that. That's ridiculous." Yeah.
But it is strange, not to make you feel bummed about it.
Yeah.
Boston is where you think of like this is where the competitors come. Like it may not be the fastest, but people go to Berlin to qualify for Boston.
Well, but I also think people go to Berlin to run fast. People go to Boston to have fun. Like, I don't think most people like race Boston. People race Berlin. So I just think regardless of the athletes that were there, people were on a mission this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is cool.
Okay, so race weather wasn't perfect, but it was pretty ideal. The race announcers were like, this is the most amazing weather, which I was like, it's a little warm, but...
Yeah. Well, they've done research. Anything over 60 degrees is not optimal for anyone. You know, some people tolerate that better than others. And it doesn't mean it's a disaster. Like, I'm very sensitive to heat, and I did not think it was a disaster, right? You know? But I just knew I was going to need that extra bottle of fluid if I could get it. And I knew that I was going to struggle a little bit more towards the end from the heat than I normally would. And I did. Like, I think you would agree, Meg. Like, I felt like it was going to be easier for me to break 250 than it was on the day. And I felt great. Like, it wasn't a fitness. I really thought I'd be like a minute faster with a bigger smile on my face, you know? So obviously the heat kind of got me in the end. I think it was like a 20-second positive split. So it wasn't like I fell apart from the heat, but I mean, it definitely was impacting a lot of, I talked to a couple people. Tommy was one of them. Tommy runs. And I mean, poor guy, like you could tell he was just struggling from lack of sodium in the finish line. So I talked to him a lot and I was like, we'll get you figured out for the next time.
His shorts had
so much salt
lines on it.
Yeah. And that's left and right.
People
Were like
sweater.
That. Yeah. So we talked about that and we're like, you know, I was like, it wasn't your fitness today. It was 100% lack of sodium. And I think a lot of people got, you know, kind of into that. But so we were coming up on the Brandenburg gate and I knew after that was like 400 meters through there. And I always tell Meg, like, I'm not going to look at my watch. I'm just going to run a strong race. But I was about 200 meters out from the gate. And I'm like, look at your watch, and I looked and I was like, oh, you're not going to make this unless you pick this up, Meghann. And I did. I felt okay. Like, no one feels amazing at the end of a marathon, but I was like, you got to go. So I picked it up as I got under the gate, but I knew everyone was like, there's going to be so many photographers. So I was like, okay, I can't like have the wheels completely fall off yet. Like, there's a photographer under this gate, right? So I like tried to hold it together, but pick it up. And then that last 400 meters, I looked at my watch one more time and I was like, I don't know if you got this, but you got to give this your all. Like, you came here for a mission. You came here to break 250. You are so close. Like, run your tail off, Meghann. Like, this is what I'm telling myself. So, again, like I said, I saw Tommy in the chute and I was like, you don't even have a second to say hi to him. Like, you just need to get to that finish line. So I literally just ran as fast as I possibly could, crossed the finish line, hit my watch and saw that it said 2:49:55, and my face, there's a picture of me at the finish and my face just like lights up when I saw it. And I was like, oh God, I did it. And then I went back at my Strava and it was like a 5:54 pace there at the end. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
That was nuts. But the crazy thing was, and I'm glad I watched you do the marathon because I thought the finish was the Brandenburg Gate. And I was like, holy cow, there's like a half mile after the gate. Yeah. And so I could see myself going to Berlin and being like, I'm going to do my sprint to the finish.
And then you're like, you got to keep sprinting. Yeah. It was crazy, but it all went well. It was good. There was lots of people dead at the finish line and I had a smile on my face. So that was good too. Good marketing for Featherstone.
Did you see many people with handhelds knowing that they, one, had the option to have bottles out there and then two, that there were no electrolytes?
No. I did not see many hand. In fact, I had a lot of people like when Ben Johnson posted those pictures yesterday, like, Meghann, why'd you carry a handheld? I'm like, do you listen to anything I say?
Wow.
Yeah. Shout out to Rachel, Ben's wife.
Oh,
she took some great photos.
Sick
I thought
pictures.
there was at least like 4 or 5 that she got a view that were really good.
She got really good ones. She did catch me from mile 15 to 17. I was started to get a side stitch. I think my iron's low. I need to get it tested again. Like, I get this funny feeling in my lungs like I can't get enough oxygen when my iron's a little bit low. And I started feeling that way at like 15 through 17. So I was taking these really deep breaths, and she got this picture of me with my mouth. It's like literally looks like a 0, like sucking in all this air. And so I told him, I was like, I told him what was happening. And he goes, oh, just wait till I send you the other pictures. I was like, oh God, she got like the full entourage of that. No.
Well, what was cool about that is you always advocate, if you want to look good for race photos, get them, have a photographer take them of you when you're not racing or whatever. Yeah. You got good ones and you got to race. So it's like the double whammy.
You win.
It was not, I don't know if she did any editing to them, but they looked good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. You got to fuel early, you got to fuel often, and then you can finish with a smile on your face too. It doesn't have to be a disaster.
Okay, so you cross the finish line with a smile on your face while everyone else is vomiting because they didn't get in their electrolytes.
Sand is being thrown down everywhere.
How?
I was like tiptoeing.
Did you have to throw out your shoes?
No, I brought them home.
Okay. Hopefully in a bag.
Yeah, in a bag. They're still in the exact same bag. I threw them in the closet.
Cool.
What I know you made it over to Tracksmith. You got your poster. TBD if you were the first female there. I'm pretty sure you were. We'll figure this one out later. I'm going to do some investigating. Okay. But what does the recovery look like?
Yeah.
Well,
was there recovery?
Time out. What we got to do with that Tracksmith thing, if we find out that you were the first one back, you took a fantastic photo of you with your poster at the track house. I think they need to put that in their feed to honor you for being the first female. I mean, you got to be the first American, right?
Yeah.
I would think so. I don't know.
Anyhow.
I mean, we really moved it over there. I don't know.
Meghann had a question, and I jumped all over it.
It was
Sorry.
the recovery.
Okay.
I got it out there.
Yeah. So went to Tracksmith. At this point, I'm like, I have zero interest in food. Oh, wait, I take that back. I drank so much water at the finish line. That's right. I was like, oh my God, I'm so thirsty, which I knew I was so dehydrated, right? It was like very warm out there. So I drank like 4 cups of water and then walked to another area and drank 2 more and just felt human again. So I drank a ton of water immediately, which sometimes backfires for people, but I wasn't nauseous or anything. So I was like, this is going to be fine. So we went over to Tracksmith and then I went home. So I didn't get back to the hotel until I think it was almost 3:00, at this point. So I'm like, I should probably shower. So, I go and I hop in the shower and I get out and I have a text message that's like, hey, do you want to meet Eliud Kipchoge? You can talk to him. You can ask him questions if you can be here by 5. And I was like, oh my God. I promise you my heart rate was higher then than it was at the end of the marathon.
So I got myself together.
Like, I was like, is this real? Like, checking my phone again. So, I, quickly got myself ready, walked over a mile to this other hotel to wait and get to meet him. And it was pretty surreal.
Did he tell you about his nutrition strategy?
So I asked some of his NN running team if I could ask how many grams of carbs he takes per hour, and they were like, no. I was like, oh, okay, well, that was a really interesting conversation. But I did. I was like, what do the people want to know? They want to know what he ate before he won the Berlin Marathon, So I asked him, and he got a big grin on his face, and he said, oatmeal. And I was like, well, what's your favorite food? And he goes, oatmeal. I love oatmeal. And I was like, well, here we are. Sponsored by some oatmeal. It's phenomenal.
I think it'd be a little more expensive to get Eliud Kipchoge. But I mean, here's the thing, like, he's gonna go down as a legend in this sport, regardless of what happens for the rest of his career. Like, he's already solidified himself as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest marathoner of all time.
Yeah.
And you're standing next to him, you're getting your photo with him. Yeah. What kind of feeling, like, are you in the moment, or is it kind of like, oh, I don't want to bother him? Like, what's going through your head?
Oh, 100% in the moment. Yeah. I mean, sure, like, I was trying not to be that person that's asking, like, dumb questions, So, of course, like, there's a little bit of thought, like, holy cow, like, you're around, like, some very serious greatness right here. This is probably a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But he's, everybody describes him as just the kindest, most compassionate, caring person. And that's exactly what he was like, So he was really easy to be around. There was a table of, like, 12 of us that were just able to just kind of ask him candid questions. And one of them was an 8-year-old and, asking if his kids know, how famous he is. And he's like, no, they have no clue. Like, he's just like, no. And he's just given us advice on, life. And it was wild. But yeah, I mean, standing next to him, I will say, like, it says online he's 5'6", and I was like, he didn't seem that much shorter than me. Like, I'm sure they're not lying, but like, he wasn't quite as.
He's probably wearing Alpha Flies.
He had some slides on that were probably like an inch and a half, but even still, like, I'm 5'11", and he didn't like appear. And he's obviously a very petite guy, but yeah, I was like, yeah, but he was so sweet. So before he came down, one of his like NN running teammates was asking me about my race, and I was telling him, what I ran, and he was like super impressed. And I'm like, well, you guys are like elite athletes. Like, sweet of you to be impressed, but So then when I got to meet him, the same guy comes over and he's like, Meghann, tell Eliud what you ran today. And I'm like totally embarrassed. Like, dude, this guy just won this race, 5-time champion of the Berlin Marathon, like world record holder. Like, he's not going to care, But so I'm like, well, this guy's telling me. So I told him, I was like, I just ran, 2:49 and I turned 40 last weekend. That's when the picture of him grabbing my shoulder and his eyes just totally lit up. And he was like, do you have any idea how wonderful that is? And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, he was just so sweet, so kind. And I think he knows that he does this for a living. So I think when he sees people having success, when that's for fun, I think he really understands that. Like, this is my job. This isn't her job to run fast, which was like really cool to see,
Plus, you don't have a whole NN team behind you.
Exactly.
A training camp.
Right.
I'm so glad you told that story, because I was so curious of the hand on your shoulder photo, like what was happening there. Like, I also, like, if I was you, I'd be like putting that in a frame somewhere. Like, I was touched by Eliud.
I've been chosen.
I'm the chosen one.
I am the one now.
Yeah. I mean, it was wild. Like, totally. All I wanted was a picture with him. And then to like have that moment, I was just like, wow, like, this is crazy. Like, and I have to, of course, say thank you to Abbott Global, because they're the ones who, made this all happen. They're the ones who are taking me on the 6-star, journey, and were the ones who texted me and said, come on over. You can meet Eliud Kipchoge. So, the experiences they provided over the weekend were just second to none. So huge thanks, Abbott.
So it's an amazing race, amazing day. I mean, you peaked. You're with Eliud. You ran a PR.
it's only
So
going
it's
down
time for
from
bed,
here.
right?
Yeah.
How are you sleeping after this? Meghann, explain what happens after this lovely day.
So after this, like, my counterparts, aka you guys, weren't there. So I'm like, I don't really have anyone to like hang out with at this point. And like you said, I've peaked. I mean, there's no place but down from here at this point. Like a PR in Berlin, a shoulder pat from Eliud. I mean, like what the heck? So then I literally just looked at the rest of the Abbott crew and I was like, what are you guys doing? Totally invited myself to dinner. Totally like weaseled my way into their dinner. And it was just a blast. Like the weekend was quote unquote over from a work standpoint. So everybody was like super relaxed. So we had this kind of family style dinner right across the street. Just had a blast sitting there, like getting to know them a little bit better, like on like a friendship level versus like a work level. And then the whole goal was to make it to this Berlin Marathon after party that starts at 8 p.m. the night, after the marathon has happened, which, I mean, I feel like we're usually in bed by like 9, right? Like, cause,
How did you find out about this party?
So everyone's invited. Like anyone who runs the marathon can go. But I had been
it's on
told,
like
I'd been told ahead of time that like I could not miss this, that this is unique to the Berlin Marathon. No other marathon has a party like this. So you know me, if somebody tells me it's going to be the party of a century, I'm like, I'll be there. So that's where we went after dinner. Like the big group of us all went together and, we were able to get like on like the VIP fourth floor of this like castle. So you like looked down on like all the people who were hanging out. So like each level had like different people that could hang out in it. Right. And the peasants were on the bottom floor. So we get to the top floor and it's like all the elite like German runners like just partying their faces off. And like it was, I've seriously never seen anything like this. Just like open bar at the top level, right? Where we had like an open bar. Yeah. I think everywhere else, like, it was like a normal, party. So we're sitting up there and I'm just looking over like, I've never seen this many people in my life. And it's just like a straight up rager. And then all of a sudden, I didn't realize that they were going to bring Kipchoge in. So they bring him through all these people and we're able to watch from above, like all these, like people, they look like ants from where we're standing, like how they're swarming him and how they're protecting him. And I was just like, this is wild. Like we'd never do this in the US.
Where's the video of that?
I have it.
She posted it.
No,
I have
not that. Like I want the guy on, remember when Kipchoge walked through Boston and there's video of him I want that video of him walking through a rave.
Yeah. I mean, I have it from above. We could zoom in and like see like all the, and they had the female winner as well, kind of like behind. I mean, insanity. Like just, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And at some point, all of a sudden, I looked down and it was 3 a.m. and my Uber was coming at 6:30 to take me to the airport, and I hadn't packed yet. So I was like, "Guys, I gotta go." The rest of the crew was still like partying hard, and I'm like, I really like actually have to go home because I have to go home to America. So I don't even know how late the rest of the party, went on, but it was wild.
To America.
The fact that what time did you wake up for the marathon?
5 a.m. Yeah.
So you were up from 5 a.m., ran a marathon, and stayed out until 3 a.m. That's endurance right there. That's
epic.
Champion status.
Dancing
That's
our pants
insanity.
off. Like just dancing like crazy humans. Like everybody's like, you ran today? I'm like, yeah, I got the bracelet. See, I ran today. And we were just like, it was really something.
See, that's probably part of the active recovery. It's all...
I feel fine. I feel okay. Like I do.
Wait, what shoes were you wearing at the party?
Meg and I's favorite casual wear shoes. Some casual shoes. They're trash now though, like because people were stepping on my toes. I'm like, gonna need to replace those sweets.
Did you leave them in Germany?
Not those. Yeah, I didn't leave those in Germany. I left another.
You didn't leave anything there?
Yeah, no, I left. I brought like a really old pair of daily trainers that I left because they were like done, and I only had to run like a 3 mile and a 4 mile. So I was like, I'll just take those and then leave them and bring some fun stuff home. So
what did you bring for the kids?
They wanted these stuffed animals. There's like some brand that's unique to Germany, Steiff, Steiff, something like that. Yeah. So I got them each a stuffed animal, and then of course,
I think.
Yeah, they wanted like food from there. So like actual Stroop waffles. I brought a couple soft pretzels home, some candy, the German Haribo gummy bears that are supposedly better than what we have here. So just some fun stuff like that, and they were stoked. They were really excited.
What a good recap. I mean, I'm excited to go to Berlin.
I was just going to say, like,
amazing.
If anyone, I was a little bit hesitant, I'm not going to lie. Like, it's really far away. I didn't really know a whole lot about Germany, but if I haven't just sold that this is, like, the most epic marathon experience, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're not going to answer any listener questions today because
We talked too much.
fun, and we chatted all things Berlin, which is my preference anyway. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this conversation and learned a little bit more about nutrition and fueling for a marathon, specifically Berlin. And if you have a question that we haven't answered, you can always send us an email at fuelforthesoulpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll answer it here on the show. All right. That's it for this week.
Erbsen und Kraten.
Is that peas and carrots?
Peas and carrots.
Yeah. Do it again, the sound.
Erbsen und Karotten.
Erbsen und Kraten. Dankeschön for listening, okay? Eat your pretzel. Now we dance.
No, all of the above.
All right. I'm going to end this officially now.
Okay, bye.
Erbsen und Kraten. Peas and carrots.
Okay.
Eat some more of my oatmeal.
Yeah.
That's what Kipchoge
Good
eats.
stuff.
Oat,
Oh, he eats oatmeal?
Oatmeal. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay.
You always have to take it to another level. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Could he heal my feet? Like, is he like Jesus? Could he heal my broken big toes?
Okay.
Like, that would
So you
be
want
great.
a foot rub from Eliud
No.
Kipchoge.
Only if he can heal me.
Oh, okay.
It was so good. It was so good.
Eliud, you've got an open invitation.
It's all right here, right back in the end.
Well, there's the part. Show me where Eliud touched you. Actually, that should go in.
Oh my God, my eyes are watering. Or I'm crying. I don't.
All right.
He didn't get to. He didn't get to talk enough this
delicious.
episode, so here it comes.
I should probably say it in German. Dankeschön for listening.
The accent is so much for me.
Oh.